Um, Great, so let's start. Everybody has basically introduced themselves, at least myself, Professor Ross, and Professor Lin. And I would just like to have the students have the opportunity to introduce themselves, the returnees. I think Sam is here along with Mia and Owen. Can you say hello and your major, where you studied abroad?
Unmute yourselves, because Owen, I know you're muted.
Yes.
Mia, you're not muted, but you're on. Are you on the phone? You're just here. All right. And Sam, I know, is here.
All right, I'll begin. My name is Owen. I'm a Chinese and econ major, and I'm minoring in Asian studies. And I was studying in Beijing last year in the fall with Sam and Mia.
My name's Sam. Like Owen said, I studied abroad with him and Mia fall semester last year. I am a Chinese and Asian Studies double major on the pre-med track. Yeah.
Mia.
Here I am.
Good.
Mia, I'm a senior. I'm also an economics and Chinese double major like Owen, and I was in Beijing at Capital Normal University in the fall semester.
Excellent, great. It's like a reunion. I haven't seen you guys in such a long time. Okay, so in my role as assistant director, I help students apply to our programs. I can also answer any questions that you have about the financial aspects of study abroad, the course registration process, logistics, and your health and safety while overseas. So beginning in October, my schedule will be rather flexible, so I encourage all of you to please reach out to me as you work on your study abroad applications. And you can schedule a meeting with me through our website, that's sa.holycross.edu, or you can simply attend my Zoom office hours that I have every week on Fridays. And I want to emphasize that wherever you apply to study abroad, it's a two-part process. You first complete your study abroad application for Holy Cross, the deadline for which is November 6th. And then after I review your application and approve it, then you start the second process, which is to apply directly to a CET study abroad program. So if you're considering applying to one of our Chinese language programs, there is a required step involved, which is to schedule an advising appointment with either Professor Ross, Professor Howell, or Professor Lin. And at this advising appointment, you'll have a document that needs to be signed by one of the professors called the Certification Advising with Language Faculty form. The acronym is CAF, which will then be emailed to the Office of Study Abroad. And I also encourage you to speak with your peers who have studied abroad, especially the ones here tonight, so you can gain a better understanding of what it's like to be a student in one of these locations and hear what advice they have for you as a prospective student. So now I'm going to review our 3 study abroad programs for Chinese language learners. And Professor Ross, please feel free to add any additional information as I review these slides. The first program is CET Beijing, which operates out of Capital Normal University. This is an intensive program where your sole focus for the semester is to become more proficient in Chinese, with 20 hours per week of instruction. Your hours are broken up between core classes where you focus as a group on grammar points, conversation practice, completing various drills. And then there are supplemental hours where you get more individualized attention. And twice a week, you have one-on-one sessions with an instructor to cover anything that you happen to be struggling with in class. And you'll be living in a dorm with only Chinese students, so you won't be surrounded by other international students. And you'll also have a Chinese roommate who can help you adjust to living in Beijing. They often offer practical advice about transportation, where to eat. They can even help you with your homework. And included in the study abroad program are field trips. The Great Wall of China, trips to Xi'an and Nanjing are just some of these examples.
All right, so I want to add one other thing. The Beijing program was intensive Chinese language program with a language pledge. So I would like our returnees to talk a little bit about this and when we turn the floor over to you guys. But that means that even in the dormitory, your roommate has taken a pledge to not speak English with you, to only speak Chinese. So you really are speaking Chinese all the time. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time, nod your heads, participants, before you start dreaming in Chinese, right? I know that's one of the craziest things, but that's what happens, right? And sometimes people don't know until their roommate tells them the next day, you know, you were talking in Chinese in your sleep. It's great. It means your brain has taken over exactly the way you want it to. Okay.
Yeah, and I believe when you first arrive, you take a placement test. So you'll be either at the intermediate or the advanced level. And there are also electives in business Chinese, Chinese newspaper reading, as well as classical Chinese.
And Owen will talk a little bit more about that later,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, and all of the class sizes will be small. And of course, you know, the language pledge is a very serious commitment. I think am I getting this right? If you break the pledge 3 times, then you're dismissed from the program, right?
Yeah, I think a student last year broke it twice, so they had 2 strikes. So
Okay.
they do like punish you and treat it seriously.
They also make you aware that they're paying attention, and that's the important part. We had a student once, many years ago, and it wouldn't be any of you guys, who also got 2 strikes. And then she emailed me and she said, Professor Ross, what do I do? And I said, don't speak English anymore. That was basically it.
Yeah, it sounds intimidating, but inevitably it works, you know, to make you become more proficient. And I'm sure you feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of enduring that.
Just noticing they're all nodding their heads. Right? Okay, good.
Okay. Now, CET Taiwan is based at the National Taiwan University in Taipei. And like CET Beijing, you'll be enrolled in a small intensive language course with the choice of instruction in either simplified or traditional characters. You can also take the same electives in business Chinese, classical Chinese, and Chinese newspaper reading, but different from the Beijing program, the CET Taiwan's internship opportunity and the internship course called Bridging Theory and Practice. And I'll show you a list of some of the internships available there in the next slide. In terms of accommodations, you will not be living in a dorm, but in a furnished apartment with your CET peers, and you'll have local Taiwanese roommates. And the apartment itself is conveniently located in the center of Taipei, so you have easy access to everything that the city has to offer. There's not only a lot to explore in Taipei itself, but you'll take excursions to Taiwan's Grand Canyon, a Buddhist monastery, and have an overnight in Xinqing Village. And just like in CET Beijing, your meals are self-catered. So this means it's up to you how to budget for your meals. So you're not charged for the Holy Cross meal plan while you're abroad. And so you can take your pick of the many budget-friendly restaurants and food stalls nearby. And don't forget to visit the night markets that are throughout the city. And so a little bit more about the internship opportunities in Taipei. Obviously, Taipei's job market boasts a wide variety of opportunities, including the political, educational, and civil society sectors where you can intern. And then the course component that happens alongside the internship not only helps you build your resume, but it kind of gives you the framework and the context for you to take ownership of your experience. And so at the end of the semester, you'll leave Taiwan with not only improved language learning skills, but you'll have the insight required to successfully navigate an international workplace. So you can see that we've had students intern at Fulbright, Taiwan, the Taipei Zoo, the Veteran General Hospital, the China Post. And if there's something that you see here that doesn't exactly fit either your academic or your professional goals, the on-site staff there in Taiwan will work with you to find a place that fits you.
I'd like to add a couple of things about this just really quickly. The Taiwan program is also a language intensive program. So you're either taking, I believe it's, unless they change it, 3 hours of Chinese a day as opposed to 4 in Beijing, plus this internship, which for the most part will be in Chinese to the best of your language ability. You have to have more Chinese, and we'll talk about this later, in order to go to Taiwan, because the internship, generally speaking, requires that you're speaking Chinese or reading Chinese. And not all of the internship sites will accept anybody who says, I want to be there. They have a decision as well as you. So it's a negotiation, and building up to the program, the CET staff works with the students to help them to put together their applications for the internships, and even to help them to prepare for any interviews which they might have with the internship director on that other side. Your roommates are just like in Beijing. They are students. They are your peer in terms of age group. And they are also taking a pledge to speak only Chinese with you. So although you're not in a dormitory and people aren't watching you as you walk from their room down the hall, nevertheless, there's a lot of incentive to speak Chinese. And people are really not all that eager to speak English in Taiwan. And so you're going to find that even when you go outside, there aren't going to be a lot of people who are eager to speak with you in English and practice your English. They're going to want to speak with you in Chinese. And that's great, because that's how you get your Chinese up. Done.
And finally, CET Shanghai has not only a Chinese language immersion class, an internship, but also offers electives in English. So it's a very comprehensive program. But the catch here, though, is that you must complete either CET Beijing or CET Taiwan in the fall semester before attending the Shanghai program in the spring. So to be able to participate in the CET program here, you need to open up a study abroad application for the whole academic year. And you'll enroll in intermediate or advanced Chinese, learning in simplified characters. But there aren't elective courses in business or classical Chinese offered. And your accommodations are at Donghua University, and you'll have a local roommate like the other locations. And your classrooms in the cafeteria are just a 2-minute walk away. And again, your meals will be self-catered.
And I want to say just a couple of things. Go back. Oh, you're going to talk about academics. I just want to say the difference between the reason why Shanghai is a second semester option only is because it's not language immersion. You have 1 hour of Chinese a day, and the other classes are taught in English. So if you're thinking, I want to study abroad, but I need to move ahead in my academic plan at Holy Cross, if you want to do a year, you can do a year of language immersion. The courses count only towards language. But your second semester can be in Shanghai, where you take courses in English which count towards it's either the common area requirements or sometimes major requirements, depends upon the course and the department at Holy Cross. So you can move ahead in the academic plan, but you're not getting as much Chinese, but you're getting Shanghai, which is a very interesting city. And I won't say anything more.
No, that's great. So you can enroll in a maximum of 3 of these English taught courses that are listed here alongside your Chinese language class. And this is the full list of all of the electives that are being offered right now. You can see that the majority of the classes are concerned with economics, but there are also course offerings in politics, history, literature, and Chinese cinema. And like Professor Ross said, if you enroll in some of these courses, they can count as fulfilling a major or minor requirement or a common area requirement for Holy Cross. Or you can just try taking something entirely new. It's the choice of yours. And the internship option would be considered one of these electives. And it's the same number of hours that you would be interning. It's 150 hours, just like it would be in Taiwan. And so these are some of the examples of the internships in Shanghai. You can see it's just a broad range, everything from law offices to the symphony orchestra or design labs. And again, the on-site staff has a robust local network that can match you with an internship that fits your level of Chinese and professional interests. And now I'd like to have our faculty talk about what exactly can students gain from studying abroad for the academic year, and what can they learn from these three places, Beijing, Shanghai, and Taipei. So Professor Ross and Professor Lin, I can't.
Halasher is here too. Halasher is here. Professor Ha is here too.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
I actually want to keep this part brief, at least for me. I'll start by saying what you gain from studying. I'm going to rephrase this. What do you gain from studying for a semester or an academic year in Taiwan? And if you can't go for a semester or an academic year, you can't go through Holy Cross, but you can still go for a summer if you go to an intensive program. And we can help you select. In fact, the Chinese website makes some recommendations on summer programs that are really worth your while in terms of building your Chinese language skills. What you do is you build your Chinese language skills in that first semester. And then you've got enough background to be able to fend for yourself in a Chinese environment in which people want to be speaking English with you in Shanghai. So the idea here is you've got to have good enough skills to be able to establish your ground as a Chinese speaker if you study in Shanghai for all kinds of reasons, but mostly you'll be in this business environment, business academic, business business environment, let's say, in which people take great pride in their own English skills and want to strengthen their English by talking with you. So you need to have strong language skills, and you will have stronger language skills by a lot. And I'm going to let the students talk about that. Beijing, Shanghai, Taipei. Lin Lasher, Ha Lasher, you want to talk about Beijing, Shanghai, Taipei? Because our students have only got to Beijing.
So, well, I'm not prepared to talk about Taipei, but actually, and NTU, National Taiwan University, is actually where I graduated. So, yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that place. Of course, the environment is very good. I'm not going to talk about the night markets. It's great. But of course, the education there is very good. Yeah, I know a lot of Chinese teachers. They are friends of me, and we worked together also in Indiana University before. And yeah, we got the training together, and they are all very qualified teachers. So I believe, and I actually also went to the dorm that a lot of Liu Xuesen studying abroad students stay, and the dorms are pretty good. A lot of people coming back and say that they love the dorm. So yeah, I would just
They will not be living in the dorms though.
Oh, okay.
CET will arrange apartments because they want to keep them away from other English speakers.
I see.
So actually, okay. Taiwan, my experience in Taipei, my first study abroad was a long time ago in Taipei. And then I went back a long time ago and did another study abroad in Taipei. And my experience was there are many people from East Asia in particular. They're not all English speakers. So a lot of students from Japan, a lot of students from Vietnam, a lot of students from Thailand, and their common language with you will probably be Chinese rather than English. And that's also a really interesting advantage. I want to say also, and then I'm going to let Ha Lasher talk, and I'm not going to talk anymore on this. Taipei, Beijing, Shanghai, they're all major cities. They're all very exciting. They have great public transportations. They have great facilities. They're interesting. They're very different from each other in all kinds of ways. And no matter where you go, the food is wonderful. That's all I'll say. Ha Lasher.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So my connection is not very well. Okay, I just want to add the Beijing. Beijing studying abroad site is located in the Capital Normal University. I'm sure some of my students, right? Some of students have been there before, and from what I heard from the students, and they really enjoy their experience in studying Beijing. They have a lot of the culture sets, and they can improve their language skills, fluencies, and also, like Claudia said, a lot of the good food, right? As well. And one example is their restaurant. I heard about this restaurant across the China House, right? It's called 对面, right? Still there? I'm not sure. You can help me answer the question, right? I think some students told me it's good, right? You can go to 对面 and have some food there, right? And also the culture activities, the culture events in Beijing, you have access to a wide variety of the culture events in Beijing. You can do it by yourself, and also the CET will organize those some of the cultural events as well. So I would think it's a great experience for our students to learn Chinese language and also culture, right? If you go to the Beijing. Okay.
Great, thank you. So another component of your academic program, wherever you go, whether it's in China or Taiwan, there's a Holy Cross requirement known as the ICIP, which stands for the Independent Cultural Immersion Project. And this counts as a quarter of one Holy Cross credit. So it shows up as an overload of credit on your transcript. It's graded, and essentially what it is a self-designed interview-based project, and that you work with on-site staff to develop. And I would really like to hear from our returnees what your ICIP projects were, how you decided on a topic, and what was it like preparing a report and presentation at the end. I remember, I think it was Sam told me she wrote a 3,000 character long essay at the end, just incredible. So please, Sam, do you want to start?
Sure. So you have to pick your topic within the first week of arriving in Beijing. And then you get assigned an advisor, and you meet once a week for an hour on your project topic, and you have to design questions. So it's like an interview project. So we designed questions in Chinese, and then we had to go around and interview everyone, and not everyone, but we had to interview a select group of people. And then we met with our advisor to break down the answers to our questions, and we had to put together write a report. Depending on the level that you get placed in, is the amount of characters you have to write, and then you have to give a report, present your report in a presentation to all of the faculty at CET. And they record it, and it's a big deal. And Holy Cross students when you go, you're going to be with students from other universities across the US, and Holy Cross students are the only students that have to do something like this. So I don't know, like Owen and Mia can like attest to this, but in the middle of like your academic year in Beijing, it's a lot, and it's really overwhelming to even have an extra hour of class once a week to do this project. But after leading up to the presentation, I was like really stressed out. But at the end of your presentation and seeing by the end of your presentation, you are having a conversation with the teachers, and they start asking you questions, and it's so rewarding. So yeah, I don't know. I ended up choosing like air pollution and public health in China. So I'm really interested in like the medical field. So you can it's about anything, really. You can choose anything. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was really rewarding. And now I look back at my essay and I'm like, wow, that was amazing. Never thought I could do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Owen?
So I did my research project on the firewall in China, and I kind of just came up with the topic like the first week I was there, but I didn't even think the project was going to be as interesting. I found out that a lot of Chinese people themselves didn't know the firewall existed, and I found out just a lot more about like the Chinese society and how they view the internet. But yeah, at the end you give like a 15 to 20-minute presentation in the midst of like your other finals, all in Chinese, and then they ask you questions in Chinese for like maybe a few more minutes. So the fact that you start this whole program and you kind of like just don't think you're even going to be able to do any of this, and then after you go through everything and they prepare you, they make sure every week you're on top of your work, so by the end there's no escape, you have to present this project. But in terms of looking back, the other students, and they weren't doing this project, so it kind of felt more rewarding that we knew we were putting in more time, more effort, and our Chinese, you could tell, even got better through this side project. I'm not sure about what Mia has to say.
And that's great. Mia.
I had actually found my folder from everything that I kept together. So it was literally just like writing out 10 questions that I would bring to like the interviewers. You can see like it's like pretty intense, and then it ended up resulting in a massive paper, and mine was on developing role of women in China. And I never thought even going to CET that I would be able to write like a page of Chinese, but it just really attests to the one-on-one time that you have with your teachers every week, the supplemental learning, sort of like what Owen was saying, the fact that the other students weren't doing this, you really can just see your Chinese improving in leaps and bounds. And going off of what Sam was saying before the presentation, I remember I was so nervous. All the students at the other schools who didn't have to do it, were they're all like cheering us on, not in Chinese obviously, and being really supportive. But it was really intense because you walk into a room of all fluent native Chinese speakers, and they're going to judge your Chinese for the next 15, 20 minutes, and you have to give a presentation on it. And then at the end, yeah, like what they were saying, they asked probably like 4 pretty thought-provoking questions in Chinese, and you're just dialoguing with them, and sort of they're asking why I thought the role of women in China is changing in the financial industry. And then I left the room and I was like, I just talked with native speakers for 30 minutes. And it was like the best feeling ever. So
yeah, that's incredible. And I would love for all of you to also just answer some of these questions that Professor Ross and I came up with, sort of describing your overall academic experience there, your accommodations, and really one of the most important questions is how has it impacted you personally, academically, and or career-wise? And then lastly, this is a question from a prospective student, and it reads, I have never lived abroad and my Chinese is not very good. Will I be on my own during study abroad? So
All right, and I just want to say, if you in the audience think this was your question, it was a lot of students' questions, right? Not just one, but many, and every year people ask this question. So it's really important to address it. Sam, Mia, Owen, who wants to talk first? You can talk about any one of these points. You don't have to go in order.
Owen, do you want to go first?
You can.
Sure. Yeah, you're definitely not on your own during study abroad. From the initial like first days, you get placed into your class, and then you're kind of constantly with. I spent 5 hours in class, only speaking Chinese to my fellow Americans, like 3 fellow Americans classmates. So, but besides the kids at Holy Cross, like I obviously got close with Sam and Mia. You get close with the students from the other schools, definitely. And then you have a Chinese roommate, and in my case, not only did I had to speak Chinese with my Chinese roommate, but my Chinese roommate could not speak English at all. So you're gonna be on your own, but they're always trying to help you. They're always gonna bring you to places. So it never really like they're always trying to help you too in terms of studying. So if you ever have a bad day or something, I don't know. You're in a good place there. I feel like they support you. mentally, and yeah.
I would say that like there's definitely times when you feel, especially within the first couple weeks, there's definitely times when you're like, I am on my own. I'm in a new city, in a completely different culture, and you feel alone. But like Owen said, the teachers are amazing. Like they will do anything and everything for you. And your roommate is like, I had an amazing experience with my roommate, and she like took me out places to local places that I never would have gone to if she hadn't taken me there. Obviously you probably go with at least one other Holy Cross student. And then there is a whole program of other American students that you can connect with. So there was definitely times within the first couple weeks where even though I had Owen and Mia, I felt like I was alone. But I don't know, was such a good support system behind you, that there was always someone to reach out to. You also have an RD who, it's like an RA. So usually they are from the US, and they're fluent in Chinese. And if you set up a meeting with them, you can always meet with them privately. And if you need to, like, you can speak English. You have to set the meeting privately. They would prefer it to be in Chinese, but if you are like in a situation where you feel alone and like need help, then you can always set up that meeting. So there's an amazing support system. But
Yeah, I think going off of that, like what Sam said, the teachers at CET are the best people I think I've ever met. Our teachers that we had really at every level. They're like the most hardworking and caring individuals, and actually made the rigorous 4-hour class day worth it and enjoyable. Honestly, like every minute of it. And I think there really is just such a good support system at CET. Obviously, the program is rigorous and it's mentally challenging, but the people that you go there with, and I think also another aspect of it is the language partner that you have. Like I went in just thinking it was her job to speak Chinese with me, and I left it with her being like one of my closest friends that I still keep in contact with and still message with her. And yeah, I just think it was a really supportive environment and really allowed us to thrive.
That's so good to hear. This might be a good place to show your slideshow that you.
Before we do, and I want to go there next, but I want somebody to talk about that third bullet, how a study abroad impacted you.
Yes.
Any.
I don't know, I can go. So academically, I'm a Chinese major, Asian studies, Chinese double major. So this really helped me obviously improve my Chinese and my understanding of the culture. But personally, I feel like I grew tremendously. Like you are like traveling to a different country and you are taking on a whole new culture and language. And as much Chinese as you know when you go to China, like it's still intimidating. And so when you step off a plane, like you're like really, I don't know, I was like a little bit intimidated because I was like speaking with native speakers, but as the program like went on, I like saw my confidence level go up so much. So like I definitely improved personally. And career-wise, I don't know, at some point in my life, I would like to do some type of work with Chinese, whether it's like a Chinese speaking doctor or some like diplomatic work or something like that. So yeah, this has definitely helped me on all three of those aspects.
If you have any like goal or hope to become fluent in Chinese, there's no way you're gonna become fluent if you don't go to China. So, or even for you to find out if you want to become fluent, there's no way until you actually go there firsthand and experience it. So for me, it definitely helped me. I want to do some type of diplomatic relations between China and the US. So it definitely gave me confidence in my ability to live in China and then give me possibilities for the future. I don't know about Mia.
Great.
Yeah, I think going off that one, for me personally, it was also just a very transformative experience. Like what Sam was saying, you go and it's obviously very intimidating, and it's like a tall task that you're facing, entering like an immersive environment where you're speaking with native speakers all the time. But I think the amount of growth that I had leaving it, and the self-confidence that you gain after going through the program and realizing sort of what you thought you could achieve so much more, and your speaking can grow so much. It's something that I'll always be grateful for study abroad, and I'll always look back and be so grateful of my time in Beijing. And then I think also just from a career perspective, like what Owen and Sam were saying, just being so helpful. And if you want to have a career using your Chinese in any platform, going to China is something that really stands out. I'm in the middle of applying for different like financial jobs, and I was just able to put on a resume a company that I would possibly be able to facilitate relationship with Chinese clients, and that's something that really like differentiates you from other candidates. So yeah.
Also, one last thing, I feel like this program CET pushes you to the max, like academically. So even if you are not like trying to pursue a career in Chinese one day, I think it pushes you to your max and shows you that anything is possible. Like there's days and like weeks when you are like drowning in homework and you think that this is impossible, but with your support system and everyone around you, you just like keep pushing through. So
Yes, I think you're like actually intellectually capped out by the last week. You don't think you can possibly store any more information in your brain by the time you're about to take your final. And then you finally take your final, and it's like you finally do your presentation and everything. You're like, wow, I just like accomplished so much.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think it totally transformed my work ethic. Like I thought I had a pretty decent one before, and then going to China, like and understanding how the Chinese work, like there's no comparison. But I was able to at least like somewhat empathize and see how they do things. So, it definitely changes you as a student for the better, I would say.
These are really great. What I'd like to do is move over to the slideshow, and I want to remind everybody, if you click on the participant list, you're going to come up with your name. So you go to the 3 dots at the bottom of the page, and then you find the participants, or actually not even 3 dots. It'll just be right at the bottom of your screen. And then if you have any questions, raise your hand.
Okay.
So you're just going to tell her click when she has to click, right?
So are these pictures?
You guys,
Yeah, how about like we'll just like swap off going through them maybe.
okay. And just say click when you wanted to change it.
The bottom left is just the group of, I think there's like 25 students of in total, and that was like our fall picture before in front of the campus rock. And then bottom right is a picture from when we hiked the Great Wall. Top right is like a financial district in Beijing. And then the top left is, every Friday at the program, you're gonna have Zhangguo Zhouzi, which is like Chinese table, and you go out. This is after your test and after your oral exam, so you're gonna be completely wiped. Like you're gonna want to take a nap, but they're gonna force you to go out with your class to go speak Chinese for an hour or even longer and eat Chinese food, and you're just gonna talk about like your weekend plans. All right, you can go on the next one.
So this is a little bit about academic life. We obviously had the language pledge down in the right-hand corner. Up in the left-hand corner is the board. Every morning you'd walk in and you would see this board. The whiteboard was completely filled. There was not a single blank white spot on the board. And by the end of class, actually before lunchtime, so before like noontime, it started at, I think we were in class by like
8 a.m.
8 a.m. So from 8 to 12, you were in class all morning and you covered all of that on the board. That was just the morning classes.
That wasn't even a full board. That was like a
Yeah, that's only half of the board. There's another whole half of the board. And it's grammar and vocab, and it's small individual classes. So I think me and I were in a class and there was 4 of us total. So it's just 4 students and a teacher. And you have to be on your toes. Like they will cold call you, and they're not cold calling you to like embarrass you or anything, but they're like there's only 4 students, so they have to call on someone, and you have to be on your toes at all times. And if you don't get it, obviously if you don't get it, they're not just gonna skip to the next student. Like, they're gonna sit there and make sure that you know how to use the grammar structure, how to use that vocab word. They're gonna work through the problem with you. So yeah, it was really intense. And then in the upper right-hand corner is the China night. So at the end of the program, every class has to put on a performance. So that was one of the performances. And then there's just a picture of the slideshow and of someone's presentation.
In the middle, that's my presentation, my final project, and if you see like that stack of note cards, it's like, you know, what an English presentation would be, except their characters. So, yeah.
I want to add also that every morning we would have a quiz. It depends on the class level, but you're given anywhere from like 75 to like 125 new vocab characters, new vocab words, and then you're quizzed on 10 of them in the morning, on top of your other like additional 3 hours of homework. So every day you're learning like almost 100 new characters.
Which seems impossible now because, you know, at Holy Cross we're learning what, maybe 50 a night, like, or every 2 days. But by the middle of the program, you are like whipping through them, and you know 150 in an hour. Like, your brain just gets so used to seeing Chinese that it takes you an hour and you know all of them. And so when you get there, you take, Piper already touched on this, but when you get there, you take a language placement test, and then they place you in your class, and you are in a class of usually 4 other students, and depending on your level, you may or may not have like an extra class. So Owen can talk about that a little more, because if you're like if you're in 300 level or above, then you get placed in an additional class. Owen, if you want to touch on that.
If you got placed in an advanced level or above, you have to take, and for us, we were given the option of business Chinese or newspaper Chinese. I wanted to take business Chinese, but not enough people wanted to, so I ended up taking the newspaper class, which is just in the afternoon at like 2 o'clock. You have another additional class for an hour, and I would just be reading the Chinese newspaper and then conversing about it with my classmates and teacher. It's a tiny bit more laid back, but you still have a final and homework and baogaos, so like it's not totally.
Yeah, at the end of every week you had a quiz. No, every day you had a quiz. At the end of every week you had a test, and you had a baogao, so like a presentation, which you usually prepared for and could take note cards into, but you got points taken off to use your note cards, so kind of had to memorize it. And this seems really daunting, but like I said, by the middle of the program, you were just so used to it and used to hearing Chinese and seeing Chinese everywhere and like speaking it, that it just starts coming to you really fast.
Next slide.
Experiential learning.
I can touch on this. Throughout, like the curriculum is also, they'll also make it interactive. So you're going out to museums or going out to certain locations and then interviewing people or talking to people or learning about whatever. So the bottom, I'm interviewing, like, I think it was like senior citizens at some place in Beijing. And then you visit a lot of museums.
Yeah, so me and we went on a couple, there's one over to the right, so we all went to a tea house, and we like watched a traditional tea ceremony. And then me and I went to a hutong, so a Chinese, like in the middle of a city, like a little village in the middle of the city. And we had to walk around and interview people on like the changes, like of the hutong and how the government's like trying to get rid of them. We also had to go to like the cafeteria at our university and randomly just walk up to students and ask them questions about, I forget what it was about, but
it was about the Koyu, the different
oh yeah,
areas of dialect.
Yeah, so we had to go do that. I don't know, it was like you had to just walk up and talk to these random people and just ask them if you could ask them questions, which was like a little crazy thinking, like looking back at it, but in the moment, it was awesome. You can hold a conversation with these native speakers, so it was really rewarding. We can go to the next slide. This is some of the food. So the middle is our Zhongguo Zhuozi. So in the middle is the Chinese roundtable on Fridays. This is our class, me and Mia's class. There's in the right-hand corner, there's a birthday cake for my birthday. And at the bottom right-hand corner was tofu, I think.
Ribbon tofu.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was really sweet. It's like a sweet and sour sauce type thing. And in the left top hand corner is some noodles, and then in the bottom was like cabbage and eggs. The food was obviously very different than what you're used to eating, but you have to try it all. As long as you are like not allergic to anything, you just got to dive in and try it all, because otherwise you're missing out. Some stuff you're going to be like, oh, I never want to see that, or never want to put that in my mouth again, which is fine, but you won't know that until you try it. So I suggest.
There's also that American cafe on Capital Normal University's campus. So if you were sort of getting a little tired of the chongguotai, you can branch out, go back to the American cafe, get like normal fish, avocados, stuff that you're accustomed to. So that was sort of nice to be able to have, things you're used to. What are you gonna say, Owen?
Just like the cost of the food is so cheap, so you can really eat so much. Like I think I was living for so cheap though. I was living off of like 20 yuan a day, which is like almost just $3.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you can eat a lot for cheap in China.
I just want to make sure, because that didn't come out so clear. 20 yuan a day is about $3, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Again, not 33. Right?
Oh yeah, I said 3. My bad.
Yeah, I know, because I said that the volume, the sound quality wasn't that good. I want to make sure everybody understood that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like you can add money to your like cafeteria card, or you can go out to restaurants, and pretty much whatever you decide to do, it's pretty much the same amount of money at the end of the day. So, and like Mia said, there's options for American like food. You just got to find them. You got to dig deep and find them if you do need a break from the Chinese food. This was a little, so we took 2 trips, one to the Great Wall, and then there was another one to, was it Xi'an, I think?
Yeah, it looks like Xi'an.
Yeah, so the 3 of us did not go on the Xi'an trip, but we did go to the Great Wall. We stayed, I had been to China before, and we had gone to like the touristy part of the Great Wall. So you walk up and there's people selling ice cream and t-shirts and sweatshirts. But this time we stayed in like a little rural village. So over to the left was the beds that we stayed on. And the people who owned this, there was just like a family that owned this little village. And they welcomed us and let us stay, and they cooked us dinner. And we hiked the Great Wall. And it was, the picture in the middle on the top was what we hiked. So you can see how it's not really flat. There's trees and rocks, and you were super high up in the like mountains along the Great Wall. And yeah, it was awesome. So I would definitely suggest, they offered 2 trips usually, and I would definitely suggest, and it's included in the price of that you pay for study abroad, and I would definitely suggest going on those.
Great Wall was probably like one of the best weekends of my life. It was insane. You stayed at a local native Chinese family house the night before, like right outside the wall. That's like a picture in like the bottom left corner of like some of the living quarters. So it's like, really basic, but it's such like an authentic stay. And then we woke up at 4 a.m. To hike like the entire, non-traditional side of the wall. And yeah, we're hiking all day. And then that night we went back to the family's house, and they cooked us probably one of the best meals I've ever had.
And then we had s'mores, which was awesome.
And American s'mores, which was crazy.
We had a fire in schools. It was awesome. And there's also time in your schedule that you have like a break. I think we had 2 breaks, one longer than the other, a fall break, and some other break at some point. And you can travel. That is obviously not included in the price of study abroad, but it is really cheap to travel. So Owen, Tiernan, and I went to Qingdao, and it was like on the coast. So we had some really good seafood while we were there, and like, yeah. So I would definitely suggest traveling if time allows you to.
Yeah, your parents can visit you. My parents came all the way to China, and they took me to Shanghai, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So there's definitely opportunity to get out of the city, and I would suggest taking it, because sometimes you be in the city and it's overwhelming, and leaving the city for a little bit can definitely help deal with the overwhelm feeling. So
We have a student asking a question.
Good.
I think Lan Wei asking a question, raise her hand.
Lan Wei.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I have a question. It's not like related to the trips, but I'm not sure if you're gonna talk about this, but I just wanted to ask if there's any clubs that like the schools that you stay at like offered, or if you joined any.
Like any clubs, like student clubs or organizations that you could join on the campus?
Yes. Yep.
I'm not positive, but speaking from experience, it's almost as if you don't have time, truthfully, from how much you're studying. That they don't necessarily like offer clubs, but they'll tell you where like the local gym is. And actually, I got involved at Capital Normal University through a WeChat group chat for a pickup soccer league. So I was in a WeChat group chat of like 300 international students. A lot of them are from Africa, and we would just play pickup soccer on campus. So you kind of have to find those type of opportunities and then fit them in your schedule, because it's hard managing your time. But I'm not sure if Sam or Mia have if they've joined a club.
We didn't like join any club, or I didn't join any clubs, but CET also offers like I think it was a kung fu class maybe, or and then a dance class or something. Yeah. So those are electives. You don't get graded for them. They're not required. You can sign up and then like go some weeks and not go the others. So there's stuff like that CET offers. But in terms of like clubs, Owen's right. There wasn't much time to, like, you have to go out and seek like those opportunities, but there really wasn't much time. CET keeps you really busy in terms of schoolwork and time that you're in class, and by the weekend you just want to like chill and explore the city. But
there is,
sorry,
to add to that though, there's like a really nice American this gym called like Lava that was like really, really nice, and it was a mile away from Capital Normal University. So you can set up like a gym membership in Chinese, and the workers there are all Chinese, so you're still in the immersive environment. But that was like a really nice thing for me, at least, to be able to like go and still have a gym and have a sense of normalcy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely things you can do. You just gotta find them.
Let me just ask, in past years, CET has also organized a calligraphy group or Chinese painting group. Was there anything like that going on?
Yeah, there was it was painting. I think it was painting one half of the semester, and then the other half was like dance or kung fu.
Okay, good. Thanks.
I see Maggie has a question in the chat.
Great.
Her question is, how did you balance academic rigor versus fun, cultural, city activities, making friends, and electives?
In terms, I think you pretty much will, no matter what, become friends with the people who are in your class. Like, you're all going to be struggling and under this language glitch together. So everyone's really, and the people who are going to China in the first place are somewhat different people. So I feel like they're very well accepting, and it was very easy in terms of becoming comfortable around everyone. But honestly, yeah, you have no time during the weekdays for fun activities pretty much. And on the weekends, you're gonna have to like try to cram it in and try to make a schedule and visit, like make a checklist and tick off the places that you want to visit. I'm not sure what you guys have to add.
Yeah, I would say before going, definitely make a checklist of places that you want to go. And I know in like our case, Owen, Tiernan, and Mia and I, we would like make plans on like a Wednesday night, and we would after class, after we had lunch with our class, we would take a quick nap, and then we would like start doing like checking things off our list as soon as Friday afternoon rolled around, and then we had a plan for the weekend. Just because you had, like Owen said, there is not much time during the week to like go out and explore, but on the weekends you just gotta make the most of it. So, but there is plenty of time. It's just during the week it was hard to find time. So,
And you definitely like, it's also just not always 100% serious. Like you can totally on the weekend make time to go out to like the clubs or wherever you think you are gonna have fun. Like you can do that. It's just about like time management and making sure you have everything else done.
yeah, I'd also like to add like whatever you put into this is what you get out. So the more you study, the more you go out and like seek opportunities to speak with native speakers, the more you will get out of it in terms of your language. So I would say definitely like you're going to feel overwhelmed academically, but definitely make time on the weekends and on like a Friday afternoon to get out into the city, because those are the times when you're not going to be in a classroom setting being forced to use a grammar pattern or being forced to use set vocabulary words, but you will like be on the spot and have to just start speaking Chinese because you need to find a cab home or you want to order food. So I would definitely suggest making time for that.
Those are all excellent tips. Are there more slides? Or I think this might be the final one, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It looks like you were able to go to traditional opera performance here.
Yeah.
Great.
That was another like program or another thing that CET organized for us. So we got CET too.
Yeah, that was actually at like an academic conference at, I don't know if you know, Claudia, it's like Donghua Theater, some super important like historical theater in Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
But we had the chance to go see that, which
They
not for even Chinese people, they don't have the privilege of going. We were told.
All right, I think, Piper, we've been going for a little over an hour, which is probably about right. I think we had a sum up slide or something like that in your presentation.
Yeah, very quickly, just in terms of prerequisites, you do have to take 3 semesters total of Chinese before your departure for Beijing. Again, a little bit more for Taiwan, you need 4 semesters. The suggested GPA is a 3.0, but if it's a little bit below, just contact me and I can take a look at your transcript. And again, address if you have any deficiencies, such as a withdrawal on your transcript or a low number of credits. So just, if you have any concerns of that kind, let me know. And one other requirement is that you have to officially declare your major before going abroad. And we've already sort of reviewed this, the timing of when you can go to Beijing versus Shanghai and Taipei. Just know that if you go to Beijing in the spring semester, you'll participate in the January term, which is an additional 4-week intensive class that occurs right before the start of the spring semester. And that's also something that you would do, say, if you studied in the fall in Beijing, you'll stay there for the January term before going to your next destination for the spring semester, such as Shanghai. And there's no additional fees involved for study abroad, such as application fees. In billing, you're charged the Holy Cross standard room and tuition, And if you're the recipient of financial aid, that transfers to your time abroad. But you won't be charged the Holy Cross board or meal plan. You receive an activity budget from our office. We give you $175 for semester-only participants and $200 for students that stay for the academic year. And this is to help cover expenses for any cultural activities or clubs or sports groups that you may join. And you would just submit your receipts to our office directly. And something else that we help you with financially is covering the cost of your round trip ticket to your destination. So it varies year by year, but for the flight credit that was for Beijing last year was $900. And then for Taipei, which is a little bit more expensive to fly to, we provide you with $1,000. And visa, actually, the visa process, CET is the one that guides you through that step by step. So again, speak with your academic advisors, complete the CAF form. You can, please, by all means, begin your application as soon as you can on our portal. It's pretty straightforward. It just requires a personal statement, a 2-page essay, a letter of recommendation, 1 Chinese language evaluation from your current language professor. You upload your unofficial transcript from STAR, and the deadline is November 6th. But please don't do it on November 5th, because a lot of students will apply at the very last minute, and last year it completely overloaded and crashed our website, and then it took a couple of days to recover. So spread out the work, but it shouldn't take you that much time. And then, yes, again, I'll approve your application, then you'll move on to the second stage of applying to the CET program directly. Much later comes the pre-departure meetings, where we discuss logistics in more detail before your departure. And then just my final remarks, look for sources of funding. There are CET scholarships available. Get a passport right now if you don't already have one, or renew it before, if it's going to expire before January 2023. And obviously, our Office of Study Abroad monitors the COVID pandemic every week, and safety is our top priority. We won't send you abroad if the destination does not fit our criteria, our health and safety measures. So lastly, we also provide every Holy Cross student with international health insurance. So you'll have what we call international SOS, and Cigna is the health provider. International SOS is both the international health insurance and the emergency assistance. And then CET also enrolls you in another health insurance plan called Geo Blue, so you'll have dual coverage while you're abroad. And now, if you have any other questions, please use the chat feature,